Settle down, brother. This is the Quarter Report, powered by ENC.com. South Africa is a movie. Welcome to the watch party. Immigrants don't ruin countries. Elites ruin countries. Elites in the countries themselves ruin their own countries for everybody else who is not an elite. Political and business elites ruin countries. And today we're going to talk about the latest spike in mass protests against illegal immigrants that happened yesterday in Durban. And caused this massive face-off and almost violence between two different organizations, one of them being Operation Dudula, which are the people who are trying, often very xenophobically, to get immigrants out of South Africa, and Abahlali Basim Jondolo, the landless people's movement, who've been fighting for a very, very, very long time to help those who don't have land, don't have a place to live, the landless people, to actually get support and aid from government. So we're going to talk about who is at fault for the jobs crisis in South Africa, the service delivery collapses, the ruined public healthcare system, the ruined public education system. And we're going to get to the conclusion, I'm telling you in advance, that it's the elites of this country that have allowed those to fall into such disrepair that now foreigners are being blamed, immigrants are being blamed for allegedly overrunning those systems and decapacitating them, when actually that is simply factually not the case. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to get into the fact that Gayton McKenzie has responded to our episode yesterday about one of his, he responded to one of the many promises that he has broken to the South African people in the last year that we covered on yesterday's episode. We're going to talk about his response to our story about how he has done nothing to create a Jocelyn Smith Foundation or donate at least his full ministerial salary to the creation and development of that foundation, because he did respond, and we're going to work through his responses. As you know, if you want to watch the full episode of the show, you go onto enca.com. It's in the description. And of course, the second link is 3beaniesnetwork.com, where you can go and get your very own merch. Okay. Let's talk about illegal immigration in South Africa, because we have seen a bunch of, and we've covered this extensively, but we've seen a bunch of politicians and political parties rise to power and fame, including Gayton McKenzie with his Abahambe PA stuff, but particularly Action SA through him and Mashaba over the years, and a bunch of different bot networks that were very kind and sweet to his posts for a very long time, and Operation Dudula, who have basically accused illegal immigrants of being the cause, the foundation root of all of South Africa's problems, particularly poorer South Africans' problems over the years. And so they have accumulated a decent amount of political power and support for peddling these claims. Now, I'm going to start with a big old piece of fake news that was debunked by Africa Check, because a lot of South Africans believe that there are over 10 million, that there are tens of millions of illegal immigrants in this country, and that is simply not true. The root problem of this comes from a complete misdirect, a mischaracterization of a piece of research that was then exploited to mislead South Africans by, amongst other people, an Action SAMP in 2023 that even manifested in a hashtag 15 million, what was the exact hashtag? 15 million illegal migrants. It's connected back to one of him and Mashaba's old tweets. It was further put around by Marsha Barron. And the idea is that there are 15 million, like again, 15 million? 15 million is now around between 20 and 25% of all South Africans. If that is true, 1 in 4 of the people who you meet in the street, actually no, 1 in 3, because you are the fourth person. You are the fourth person. So if you're South African, 1 in every 3 people that you meet, 3 to 4 people, needs to be an illegal immigrant. Surely you know from your own life that that is frankly absolutely insane. Now, Mashaba cited an article published by the Citizen newspaper a couple of years ago. The headline is 15 million people in South Africa are unregistered and many are stateless children, which refers to a World Bank piece of research who estimated that in 2018, South Africa had over 15 million unregistered people. But what does that really mean? It means an unregistered person is someone who does not have proof of legal identity, including South African citizens. And there are millions and millions of South Africans who don't have a birth certificate, don't have an ID that is up to date, or ever had an ID, don't have documentation through Home Affairs. There is no information within the World Bank's the World Bank, lol, within the World Bank's estimate to suggest how many of those are illegal immigrants and how many of those are South Africans. More than that, it is challenging to estimate with real specificity the number of foreign-born people living in South Africa, but we can get fairly reliable ballpark figures where the margin of error is quite small. Okay? So, here's one piece of data from the 2011 census of South Africa, estimating that there were 2.2 million foreign-born people living in the country. Just foreign-born. The British immigrant from England living in his 10 million rand Camps Bay accommodation in Cape Town counts in that estimate. So does a Zimbabwean who's come across the border to find work from a position of poverty. Those two people both count in that estimate. And remember, they could both be legal migrants or they could both be illegal. The only estimate is 2.2 million foreign-born people living in South Africa. Absolutely no more information on whether or not they were legal or illegal. By 2022, there was another estimate from Diego Utaralde, who's the Chief Director for Demography and Population Stats at Stats SA. He estimated that there were around 3.96 million foreign-born people living in South Africa. So that's around 6.5% of the country's population. It includes all foreign-born people, regardless of legal status. Now, maybe it's a little bit over 4 million now, broadly, but if you think that the data shows that it went from 2.2 million in 2011 to around 3.96 million 10 years later, it's not going to be much more than 4 million or in the 4 million range, right? And again, that includes all foreign-born people, not just illegal migrants, poverty-stricken Africans coming across the border. And that's a perfectly normal, regular number of foreign-born people living in a country. It's not a world leader. The vast majority of countries have between about 3% and about 6% of the people living in the country being foreign-born. So that's the true state of play in South Africa today. But then we turn to the latest flare-up that happened in Durban yesterday when Operation Dudula was marching against illegal immigrants in South Africa, blaming them for everything, blaming them for overrunning public services so that South Africans can't access the public healthcare service, blaming them for swallowing up all of the seats in our schools, blaming them for wasting all of our taxpayers' money by getting benefits from the state, blaming them from taking away South Africans' jobs, blaming them for committing crimes. And again, Herman Mashaba posted some really misleading information a couple of years ago that was then blown up online all over the internet and was then thoroughly debunked to show that illegal immigrants and migrants in South Africa do not commit proportionally more crimes than South Africans do. That is simply factually false. But South Africans have been misled to believe all of this. And that's why there are organizations and there are movements, there are political parties that are taking advantage of this perception of the dangerous migrant. But the reality, the real truth in South Africa is that public healthcare services are failing, not because of the 6.5% of the population who were born somewhere else, but because elites, specifically ANC political elites, have overseen the decay and the crumbling and the hollowing out of public healthcare services over especially the last 20 years. The education system is failing, not because of illegal migrants, but because of the ANC rulership of the country of the last 20 years. The police services are failing, as we've seen with General Mkhwanazi, not because of illegal migrants, but because of political and business elites exploiting and corrupting our police services, which has manifested in failing police services across South Africa and rampant corruption and wrongdoing and criminality from elites that they can then get away with, which has caused the police to fail the rest of us. Service delivery. There are not potholes in the streets and Eskom is not failing because of illegal migrants. So then you need to ask, well, why are illegal migrants or migrants being scapegoated? And the reason why is because it's politically useful for a politician when they and their party have failed South Africans to blame the foreigner, to shift the blame for their own failings. It's a great scapegoat that politicians have used for more than 100 years. You always want to blame somebody else for what you have failed to do, and the best people to blame are people who can't vote, because then you're not alienating someone who could vote for you, right? And so the best people to blame are migrants. Donald Trump has done it in the United States of America. And more Americans, most recently the comedian Bill Burr, he was on Subway Takes, saying billionaires are the enemy, not migrants. The elites with all the money and political power are neglecting their democratic and legal responsibilities to abide by the law, and particularly the political elites, to service all people in a country. And the hollowing out of those services and the failing of those services is not migrants' fault. But migrants are extremely easy to blame, and it's extremely easy to fear-monger them into being the enemy. Now, of course, as with America, as with South Africa, I'm not saying that every single migrant is a law-abiding citizen. I'm not saying that every single migrant in any country in the world is a good person. All the data shows that there are fewer migrants in South Africa than most South Africans believe they are. All the data shows that migrants do not commit more crimes than South Africans. And all of the data shows that the failings of South African society that have caused rampant unemployment, caused service delivery failings, and have caused such hopelessness are a consequence of the apartheid state that apartheid left us to try to fix in 1994, and then the continuing aberrant failings of ANC governments since then, particularly in the last 20 years. It's not the illegal migrant who we should be angry with. It's not the illegal migrant. And by the way, if you drove all of the illegal migrants out of South Africa, we would still have failing public healthcare, failing police states, failing public education, failing service delivery, because it's not them who's causing that. And of course, we would still have rampant unemployment. It's not them who's causing that. It's the elites who are failing us. And that's true, not just in South Africa, but everywhere else in the world.
I'm really glad you're a debater. Because this is something I've been thinking about a long time, and I've been sort of like toying back and forth, and it's nice to hear it very succinctly. So I appreciate that.
Gayton McKenzie, who a handful of minutes ago responded to our episode yesterday, where we listed a bunch of broken, or at least on the way to broken, promises that he has made to the South African public over the last year, that he used to gain fame, to gain influence, to gain attention, and to gain votes. And the main one the one that he's decided to respond to is our coverage of the fact that he promised over a year ago to start a Jocelyn Smith Foundation for missing children on the back of the media storm around the court trial into Jocelyn Smith's now confirmed trafficking, the fact that her mother sold her off, this young girl. And Gayton at the time said he would donate his entire ministerial salary of $2.6 million and start a Jocelyn Smith Foundation. And over a year later, that has not been created. There is no foundation. And that is not controversial. That is absolutely the truthful, self-evident reality of the situation. And I'm sorry, but it does not take over a year to set up and start a foundation. It does not take over a year to donate your ministerial salary to start a foundation that helps for missing children. And it looked a hell of a lot like he had exploited the media storm around Jocelyn Smith to his own ends. So just a few minutes before we started taping, Gayton responded to our episode yesterday by saying, a simple search would have showed that the foundation is registered. We will make public the amount we have donated, which exceeds my salary. It took long because someone already registered the name and wanted business opportunities from me in exchange of the name. Of course, the mistake that Gayton McKenzie made was posting the Companies and Intellectual Property Commission documents showing the foundation exists. So the enterprise name is SJ Foundation NPC. But maybe what he did not notice is that the registration and business start date is the 13th of January, 2025. 6 months ago. Over half a year ago, and still there is no foundation. There are no staff, there is no premises, there is no website, there is no marketing, there is no work done, there is nothing. Over 6 months ago. And if we revert back to his foundational claim that it took long because someone already registered the name and wanted business opportunities from me in exchange for the name, well, if that is true, why did you then set up the SJ Foundation NPC on the 13th of January 2025 and have still done nothing since then? Nothing at all. Because one thing about Gayton McKenzie, particularly in relation to Jocelyn Smith, if he's done something, he's going to tell you he's done something. He's going to talk about it. He's going to show off about it. He's extremely good at the public performance of politics. And so why can't he just show us right now that he's donated 2.6 million rand of his ministerial salary? Why can't he show us right now the staff and the premises and the work done and the marketing and the donor approaches and all the good done for the community of a foundation that he started 6 months ago. If his claim is true that somebody was trying to extort him for business opportunities because they'd taken the name in the first place. And frankly, Gayton McKenzie was making excuses throughout the whole of last year about why the foundation hadn't been created yet. At no point last year did he say that he was being extorted for the name for business opportunities. He just said, oh, it's taking a while because we want to do this the right way and we're not going to rush it. Come on, man. Sorry, just don't buy it.
And for me, it still doesn't answer the question of why does it require creating a new foundation? The money could have gone to any other
missing children's
foundation. It's not like we don't have them in this country. Also, just to play by his rules, why was the name so important? Why did it have to be called this thing? If it was so that
you want to do good now.
Yeah. If you were trying to compel us that it's like so important to you and it's such a crisis that you need to solve right now, why would you let branding get in the way of your thing?
Totally.
And yeah, it just reeks of being very insincere. And also, we made a lot of claims in yesterday's video.
Yeah, where are all the other ones?
He hasn't responded to anything else except for that one thing.
Which is fine. I don't mind it if politicians don't respond to us. I don't really care about that. I'm not doing it for them. But yeah, this is extraordinary.